What a great video. Thank Catherine for our music selection today. A thing made me want to kind of start dancing too, jumping around. And also to Gary and your trusted assistant or mate, as you say, shipmate, Cindy. And as you see, my bride is behind me. And we have Nancy and Charlie, and of course, Sarah, our tech guru. Again, happy Easter to everyone. I'm going to start off today with a story I told last week that Newt said got cut off in the technology. I think this is a kind of funny story and be good for our music director to hear this. She'll get a chuckle out of it. And hopefully it'll make you happy. Gary made me say that. Well, I heard about a pastor and a song leader that weren't getting along, and it started to spill over into the services. One Sunday, the pastor talked about the importance of being a giver. Afterwards, the song leader got up and led the song, "Jesus Paid It All." The next week, the pastor talked about not gossiping and watching your tongue. And the song leader got up and sang, "I love to tell the story." Another week, he talked about being willing to change. The song leader got up and led, "I shall not be moved." The pastor was so frustrated, he resigned. He told the congregation, "Jesus brought me here, and Jesus is taking me away." The song leader then led, "What a friend we have in Jesus." I hope that makes you happy as we begin exploring the meaning of Easter. Well, I'll never forget it. They were having Ministers Week at Bright Divinity School at TCU, where I attended for my MDiv and doctoral work. The keynote speaker was a minister from the Disciples of Christ tradition and senior minister at River Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, Tennessee. He was an African American and was about to become the minister of the Cathedral Church in Washington, D.C. Reverend Alan Jackson was a mighty preacher, big enough that Dr. Kane Hope Felder, a famous African American theologian from Howard University's Divinity School, was on the platform also. And they had selected me to be Dr. Felder's liaison for the school. On the first night of preaching, Reverend Jackson electrified the majority white university church. There was about 50% capacity. On the second night, he gave a repeat performance, and they had about 66% capacity. On the third night, word had spread a firebrand was in town. The church was filled to capacity. There was standing room only. I had never seen so many white church members show up for a Black minister preaching in the African American tradition. And I'd never seen so many Black people in a white church. It was better than anything Billy Graham, Joel Osteen, or T.D. Jakes has ever pulled off. This was an outlier event. Why? Because 50 years later, after MLK's famous quote, it still holds true. It is appalling that the most segregated hour of Christian America is 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. That week, however, white and Black worshipers walked out of the tomb of separation. They engaged in the rare act of unification. Perhaps in US history, only Barack Obama has achieved the type of unity we dream of. And we saw that only twice, on his election night and his first inauguration. We thought we'd broken into a post-racial situation, and Obama represented a third coming of hope following President Washington and President Lincoln. But looking at the political and religious landscape today, it's clear the country has reverted to its historically divided ways. Jesus' disappearance from the tomb was among the most transforming events in human history. No other person galvanized the world as his ministry did. Most great leaders galvanized a country: Washington, FDR, Mandela and de Klerk, Gandhi, King. Few transformed the world: Gutenberg, the Wright brothers, Jonas Salk, and Garrett Morgan, a African-American man who invented the traffic light of all things. I believe that Jesus' ministry represented a renewal of hope and life like none other. I won't discount miracles nor any act that brings people back to life. It's a miracle that I'm here in this pulpit this Sunday morning. It's a miracle any of us are here and able to say that we survived death's tenacious grip on our lives. In America, nearly 560,000 people were robbed of the miracle of life, struck down like flowers in a hailstorm. For UUs, Easter represents rebirth as resurrection. It's a time of renewal, gratitude, looking forward to spring and the reawakening of nature. The winter was harsh and cold, but few were dormant. We've been working harder than before the pandemic. Public health officials report signs of a growing public health crisis: fatigue because of Zoom meetings, our new around-the-clock work habits, and our tendency to be extremely online. Working from home results in more employee loyalty, not less. And who could have imagined that? Well, I can't remember Reverend Jackson's sermon from 2007, but I can remember him preaching about the renewal Jesus ushered in and the human need to take part in it. We mustn't fret about God's work because God does their work on their own. We must, however, spread the good news of the possibilities lying ahead. The Bible tells us when Jesus began preaching, word spread that a firebrand was in town talking about something new wherever he went. As the word spread, the places where he spoke and traveled began filling to capacity. Needy people came out of their tomb-like villages and huts and houses to get blessed, healed, inspired, seen, heard, and transformed. Unitarian Universalism needs you to spread the word. Every person must take part in renewal, revival, and restoration. This great community of Las Cruces needs what we offer. They need you to share the word. We are transforming lives through our mission of peace, love, and justice. Now, I'm no Alvin Jackson nor Barack Obama. I'm only XK. But I love this church, and I believe people here in Las Cruces need what we offer. Like Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, said, they don't know what they need until you tell them. The world didn't know it needed iPhones, iPads, and MP3 players until Apple told them. Las Cruces won't know it needs more UU spirituality until you tell them. Until you tell them. We can't achieve full capacity by osmosis. One of my mentor pastors would begin his sermons with a prayer that went, hide me behind the cross, that people will see me, will see you, that is, referring to Jesus, in spite of me. I say, hide me behind the chalice. Let others see the UU people, our principles and the values in spite of me. It happened in ancient times. They hid Jesus behind a stone inside a tomb. Then he was gone. People didn't know they needed a New Testament, not until Mary Magdalene spread the word by running to tell Simon Peter. She was the best supporting actor in that narrative. For obvious reasons, only the men received the award. We live in a world of hurt. Despite the hopefulness we see spreading because of the vaccine, joblessness is still high. Hunger surrounds us. Educators teach with widespread fear, and the new COVID variants lurk among us. Last week, the Las Cruces Bulletin reported domestic violence continues taking its toll on families. According to the New York Times, COVID time has created more relief between the haves and the have-nots. White unemployment is 6%, but Hispanic is 9%, and Black unemployment is now 10%. The highest 25% paid people have experienced a 3% decrease in spending. The lowest 25% experienced a 9% increase in spending. Life expectancy for Hispanics since January 2020 is now down to 79.9 years. Whites down to 78, and Blacks down to 72 years. Progress in online math coursework for the top 25% income group increased by 37%, but the bottom 25 decreased by 11%. Housing prices are up 23%, and rent is up 13%. Employment for the top 25% earners is down 1%, but for the bottom 25%, it's down 28%. This thing is far from over. I talked to our shuttle driver in Costa Rica last week about the vaccine rollout there. He said only people over 60 years old receive la vacuna. Everyone else gets another kind of vaccine there. Frutas, vegetales, pescado, ceviche, montañas, playas, sol, and pura vida. In English, that means fruits, vegetables, fish, ceviche, the mountains, beaches, sun, and pure life. Well, we had a good laugh about that, and I realized how fortunate we are in America. I didn't know that Costa Ricans weren't getting the vaccine. Another Costa Rican man told me it was his dream to visit Florida, Texas, California, New York City, and of all places, Louisiana. But he said it's impossible to get a US visa. The US State Department requires applicants to have $20,000 in the bank. That's an enormous amount of money for a person who earns on average $350 a month. Well, according to the Federal Reserve, the average American only has $10,500 in the bank, while the median has $3,400. And that's a lifetime of savings. So even the average American couldn't get a visa to America. Living in a third world country as Jesus and his disciples did, it's clear why faith, belief, and family are the real vaccine for life's troubles. Frutas, vegetales, las montañas make up an essential part of the good life. But facing a corrupt government, religious faith is the key to unlocking the future. People trust in God as a practice and to survive. I know people are hankering to travel to visit family and friends, and I can't blame anyone. Public health officials say airplanes are safe because they constantly filter the air. Plus, you can't board a plane without wearing a mask. And then there are gyms. We gym rats use more sanitizer than any hospital, I promise you. As Easter and the rebirth return with spring, we have only just begun. We must remain vigilant because we're still in the middle of the pandemic. And I believe that we all make the choices that fit who we are. We can do little more. We're in the season to stay on mission. We're in the season to keep our vision of community front and center. We're in the season to spread our news about creating a beloved community in Las Cruces. As we renovate our sanctuary to prepare for the reopening this fall, what else around here needs rebirth? What else can we do to to signal we are yet alive in Las Cruces. Well, speaking of life and death, I heard about a guy who had a parrot with a bad attitude and a profane vocabulary. Every other word the bird said was obscene. He tried hard to change the bird's attitude. He'd say polite words, play soft music, and do everything to set a good example, but nothing works. He yells at the bird, and the cussing gets worse. He shakes the bird, and it gets angrier and ruder. Finally, in desperation, he opens the freezer and throws the parrot inside. And for a moment, there is squawking, kicking, and screaming, and then silence. After a few minutes, the man is afraid that he's accidentally killed the parrot. So he opens the freezer. The parrot flies out into his arms and says, "I'm sorry that I might have offended you with my language, and I ask forgiveness. I will endeavor to correct my behavior." "It's okay," the man says. "I forgive you." "Thank you," the parrot says. "Now, may I ask, what did the chicken do?" Well, I've never been frozen like a parrot or a chicken, but I have had a similarly formative experience of being embodied in my body or entombed in my body. When I was 15 years old, I lay in Martin Army Hospital in Fort Benning, Georgia for 1 month following an emergency surgery. 30 days with no food. One day, I didn't wake up in the usual way. I lay entombed. There I was, locked in my body, unable to speak, move, nor show any sign of life. My mind was alive, yet I had no motor function. Had I died and moved on? For me, it was an inner body experience. And as I lay there, I thought, I didn't say goodbye. Who's gonna remember me? I need to graduate from high school and college. I'm still young, but I was locked in. Then I woke up. I was reborn, still in the same bed. Star Trek was still playing, and Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk was still on the Enterprise. But the experience changed me. I found a new meaning in life. The shift from an inner body experience to embodied experience upped my appreciation for life. This Easter, I call upon you to come out of your bodies and be somebody who spreads the word of Unitarian Universalism. Be somebody who encourages life, renewal, and rebirth. Be somebody who fills this place to capacity. Share UUism's good news with people who don't know they need it. You too can hide behind the chalice. Help people see the chalice and the light burning in your body. Our nation won't be a beloved community until we break through the black-white Sunday morning paradigm. We need a nationwide Ministers Week phenomenon like I saw in Fort Worth and that you saw on Obama's election night and inauguration. You can create such a rebirth and renewal. Bring the people in. Be a Mary Magdalene, Simon Peter, and a UU disciple. Your role is being the best supporting actor. Spread the good news. Find your inner Mary Magdalene and your inner Simon people. Invite people into this faith. We can fill the place to capacity. May our cups overflow with gratitude and generosity. Happy Easter, Amen, Ashe, and may it be so.